Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Encourage Mindset. I'm your host, Ethan Vandehive. Today, I'm super excited to have on Ronen Wasserman, and he's going to be talking about mindset, most importantly, his passions, and he's going to dive into really what drives him. And we're going to find a lot of similarities in his mindset and his drives and his passions with a lot of you audience members today. So, Ronen, the first thing that I want to ask you to answer with the audience and myself is, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, like where you come from, what you're doing right now, a little bit more about you.
So a little bit about myself. I'm 45 years old. I live in Rockville, Maryland. I relocated to the US 2.5 years ago from Israel, where I was born and raised. Until a very old age, in a way, until an older age, I was looking for, a path in my life. I was kind of stuck. I felt like I need to find my way to the success in a way. And until the age of 32, I was still looking and looking and looking, and I was waiting for my chance. And I remember, telling to my friends and family, I have so much to give to the industry, to the world, whatever. And nobody was willing to give me a proper chance. And I'm a hard worker. I was working from a very early age, like a very young age, and I still couldn't find my path. I'll tell a little bit about that later, but just to make a long story short, for the past 10 years, I've been running my own business, which is a very successful one in the world of revenue operations and marketing operations and marketing automation, platforms like HubSpot and Marketo and Salesforce and others. And I would love to share my story.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you kind of talked about right there that maybe some odds were maybe stacked against you, it sounds like a little bit, because a lot of people just didn't believe in you. So what kind of motivated you to push forward?
I'm the kind of person who, I wouldn't say doesn't get a no as an answer, but I want to succeed, and I have my emotions and my targets, and I'm willing to work very hard to get them. And as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I started working, in multiple places at the age of 15 and 16 in parallel of being a teenager and studying at high school and etc. So I was willing to work very hard to be successful.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of good traits to have right there. When it comes to, you said now you're an entrepreneur, right? So have you had kind of like a life-changing moment from working hard at a young age to growing up and maybe working, and now you're an entrepreneur? Have you had a life-changing moment or realization that's kind of altered your perspectives?
The answer is yes, and I'm trying to think out loud for a moment. When I was younger, I went to the same path or direction like most of the other people. I did my bachelor, and I didn't know what I wanted to study back in the day. So I did my bachelor in political science, and I was pretty much involved politically back in the days. I was looking for, not the quick way, but the smart way to become successful in terms of financially and etc. And it was very hard. And I think that the moment where I decided that I would like to move forward and do my master's, and I did a master in business administration, and I was willing to take some risks, that was the point where things started to change. So in one hand, I did my master's, which is a common thing. Many people, do masters, and many of them in business administration, but going that path is not enough. I needed to take a risk. So somewhere in 2009, I opened a small business for my wife, and I was very much invested in it. I spent a lot of hours and a lot of efforts trying to make that a success. And during that time, I was still looking for my own path. Like, okay, I opened a business and there was some responsibility, but I was looking for my own path. And at some point, I decided that I will take a course in SEO, search engine optimization. And this was an investment, some kind of an investment that was out of the ordinary. Because let's say if I just did my bachelor and master, that's fine. But that was it. And usually, most of the people that I know, once they're done with their masters, they just go and start to work, and that's it. They're done with their training or education piece. But I decided to go one step further. And when I did that part, something happened. I suddenly was able to get my first job in the high-tech industry, which opened a lot of doors for me later.
That's super cool. Super cool. So obviously there must have been like some fears going into this stuff. Like you're taking these risks. So, talk to me a little bit about that. What fears have you faced that have helped you grow the most?
As a perfectionist, the biggest fear is to fail, and with my childhood and my historical story that I'm not going to tell right now, I had many fears to fail and, to open a business with no previous experience. I had all the reasons to be scared, but I was very much focused to be working very hard and to do everything I can to put myself in a much better position of where I was, that eventually it was worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, you said right there that you own some businesses, right? And when people own businesses, usually you want them to be successful. I mean, most people want them to be successful. So to do that, you have to put in habits and routines and you have to build that. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what habits gave you the most energy and drive to keep pursuing, entrepreneurship like you are today?
So before answering this, I need to give some background why I opened my own business. So I just shared that in 2009, I opened some doors that brought me eventually to the high-tech industry. And I was working as a digital marketing manager for a couple of years. And then I wanted to open my digital marketing business. And then at the last minute, or I already had one client, at the last minute, I got a call from a headhunter saying, listen, one of the top companies is looking for a marketing automation manager. I know you don't have a lot of experience in that matter, but I think this is a great opportunity for you. It doesn't matter what you think, just go. Just go once. I can assure you, you will not be sorry. And I went there, and I was actually eventually competed with one of the top leading marketing automation experts back in the days in Israel, and I got the job with less experience, just because they liked my personality. And this was a huge leap in my career, because I had 3 weeks to learn a platform I did not know before, and then I had to support 18 team members, like in one of the leading companies back in the days. So,
wow.
Making a long story short, I was working for that company for 3 years. It was very intense. And it was so intense that I could not do everything by myself. So I got some budget, and I was able to bring 3 agencies to work with me. One for SEO, another one for development, and another one for marketing automation. And I was very unhappy. I was very unhappy because the level of service that I received from these agencies was really bad. In terms of transparency, it wasn't clear to me what I was paying for. Like, I got the invoice at the end of the month, and I was like, why did they charge me that? What exactly they did? Nothing was clear. In terms of responsiveness, sometimes I sent them an email on Wednesday and got an answer on Monday. That's not responsive. And they were not proactive. Like, I asked them to do A, B, and C. They just did it. They didn't think if that's right, that's wrong. They didn't come up with like more ideas. Or maybe they, I would expect them to be professional and say, A and B makes sense, but C is completely not for you. What if we would do D? Nothing. They just were like robots. And I remember thinking to myself, I could do this much better. It's so simple. Just be provide good service. And after 3 years of suffering from this, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I quit and I opened my own business. And the company that I was quitting was my first client. That was the beginning.
That's funny. That's funny. So that's a really cool story too. And that kind of talks a little bit about like, you know, some things that, you know, you overcame, and it talks a lot about, you know, just the entrepreneurship. Sometimes it takes luck, right? And what's kind of like, if you were to summarize, you know, or measure success in situations, like how, like, I don't know if you do this or not, but it's just a question. Like, how do you measure success in situations where you don't achieve your initial goals?
Okay, so I would like to answer this, but I would like to go back to your previous question because I think
absolutely.
I missed it. And I think the answer to your previous question is what made my company and myself successful was a hard work. And when I talk about hard work, I can share that, you know, from the early days of that company, and it was a one-man show back in the days. Now it's 32 team members. It was a one-man show, and I found myself working from early morning till midnight, almost every day. But I was so focused. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to have a successful company, and I was willing to do anything that it takes to be there. In terms of focus, to put 100% focus on clients, to give them the best service, to take less money at the beginning, you know, to charge them lower rates than other people or companies charge. I was willing to work very hard, sometimes not even charge them at all. I tried to bring all the things that I shared before that were missing, like transparency and proactiveness, into a point where it was 100% clear to them what they're going to get in return to their money. And in terms of my personal financial situation, I didn't take too much money from the company because I wanted the company to have its own bank, its own revenue, so that I could use that revenue 1 or 2 or 3 years later in order to grow. And this was the perfect approach, as eventually when it has been 2 or 3 years later, I was at a point where I needed to decide, okay, it was almost COVID, and I needed to decide if I would like to, you know, invest and grow the company and hope to have growth, you know, in terms of clientele and etc. Or maybe I should choose a different route or path. And again, I needed to make a hard decision and invest. And I invested in bringing some talents into the company, which proved to be a huge leap in the life cycle of the company. And as a result, the company grew even further. And this was a huge leap back in the days.
Yeah, no, that's super cool that you took it from, you know, nothing out of thin air, and now it's something. So what is it? How big is your company currently now?
So now we are 32 team members, and we support approximately 37 clients, and we're growing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if you look at it this way, I mean, you gave 31 other people an opportunity to grow, learn, be challenged, and you know, that's super cool. And what have you learned in the terms of having a team and in the terms of being a leader? What type of leadership have you really gotten to acquire over the last couple of years?
So first off, I have an open door policy, and when I hire someone, I don't hire someone just because of their education or just because of their approach. I have a very strong gut feeling about people. And one of the first things that I tell to candidates that work for me and with me is that I expect them to be 100% transparent and blunt with me, because that's how I'm going to be with them, for good and for bad. If I'm unhappy, they will know that I'm happy. If I'm happy, they will know that I'm happy. And that I believe that this is the right way of doing business, also with clients. I want everyone to speak the same language. If you don't have to play games and you don't have to, you know, hide stuff, and you can be truthful with the other side, then it's a win-win. Then we're together. And in many cases, I tell my team members, we're in a ship together and we're sailing to the horizon, and we could get to heaven, or we could get into the iceberg and just sink. And we are together in this. Of course, everyone, including myself, could just leave the ship and start swimming, but it won't last long. And if we want to win together, we can do it. And that's my approach in a way. And just to make a long story short, I brought all of these type of things that I shared before: the transparency, the proactiveness, the all of those type of things, professionalism, into a place where that's my language, and I want my team to speak that language internally and externally. And so far, it has been proving to be an amazing direction.
What would you say to others that want to start a business? Like, what is your kind of tips or advice there?
I have several tips here, and some of them are actually using on the new business that I recently opened, and I can share about that later. First off, don't get greedy. Don't be greedy, because if you will be greedy, you will not get what you are hoping for. For example, I'm opening now a business in the world of time management and task management, and time and task and password management, all of the three under the same roof. And I can explain later, if we'll have time, of the reasons why I opened it. And when I'm looking at similar tools like the one that I built, usually there is no single tool that handles those three modules. And when you're looking at those three tools separately, you see that companies are paying between $20 to $30 per user per month. I decided that I'm going to do something else. I'm going to charge $5 to $10. I don't care. I mean, it could be a huge success. I'm not going to lose because I already built that tool for myself. It's a different story that I could tell later. But if you're greedy, it's going to be very hard for you to succeed. And I've seen some freelancers that compete with my main company, and they take a huge number, a huge amount per hour, and they have one or two clients, but there is no chance for them to grow because companies nowadays struggle. And if you're not compatible or in terms of your rates, then it's going to be problematic. So tip number one, don't be greedy. Tip number two, be truthful and honest with everyone around you. It's going to pay back pretty quick.
Yeah, I love those. And if you're not even like an entrepreneur, those apply to you too, right? Like, always be truthful, always be honest, and most importantly, don't be greedy. I've always learned, and my mom always says it, you got to be humble and kind, and that'll take you far. So it sounds like you're preaching the same thing, which is super cool. So what do you do to, when you see maybe a team member or somebody's, down, or maybe somebody in your family or something, what do you kind of do to motivate, or boost their morale? Like, do you have a technique or a tip there that maybe in your own life or you've been knocked down that you use to boost yourself?
So I think one of the most important stuff is to make the other person feel comfortable sharing with you whatever they suffer from, whatever is going on and whatever they feel. If they're not 100% comfortable, then it will be very hard for me to help them. So whether if it's with my family or with my team members, I tend to tell them, hey, whatever is going on, feel free to share. I'm here to support you. And I have some ideas. I'm very experienced. I have had so many life events that I have, and people that know me understand that, because I have, what I told you is like fraction of everything. So I try to give them an environment where they feel comfortable to share. And from that point, I can give them a lot of ideas and insights and feedback and tips.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share on the Encourage Mindset podcast that you think listeners would want to hear from you, either as an entrepreneur, as personal development, marketing, whatever it is?
And that's an important tip. Always look for the next step. Always look for what else you could do to improve your and other people's life. And that connects me to the story of the company that I'm developing nowadays, which was built as the pain that I felt, because my company is a services company, right? And I need to be able to measure my team members' time and to be able to pay them based on their time, and to be able to pay to charge my clients based on these working hours, to be able to generate eventually the transparency I was telling you about before. So, I suffered from the need to do that, and I was looking for solutions. And at the beginning, I was doing a lot of manual work. But, if you always think of the next, what's next? What can I do better? What can I do to make my life even better and other people's life? At some point, I realized that I'm spending a lot of time doing those manual tasks in order to make my company successful. So at some point, I went to my development team and I said, maybe it's time to find a technical solution that will, solve that matter. And we developed Bizman, which is my other company. SR Pro is the first company. Bizman is the second company. And that company is the right company that takes the time management into the whole new level: time management, task management, and password management. And again, I'm not trying to sell right now because that company is still in development. I'm trying to give an idea to the audience that always look for the next phase, always look for what else I could do better for myself and for the people around me, because it works. And if you are open to think about that, you'll be very successful eventually.
Very cool. Very cool. Anything else you want to share? Just before we close up and wrap up the podcast, any final words, any messages that maybe you heard, a quote, powerful message that you implement in your life and you live by it? Anything else?
A couple of notes. First of all, many people fear from the AI transformation or whatever. I agree. I also use AI a lot, but I don't think it's going to take over the world. So don't fear. Keep working hard, and there will still be demand for the humans. So don't get worried. Another thing I wanted to share is, when you have a chance, have a look at my website, srpro.marketing, or the other one, bizman.com. I think many of you will find very interesting stuff over there. We post a lot of important information about the world of marketing operations and etc. So, I'm a positive person. I trust you to spend a couple of minutes to look who I am, and I'm sure you'll be surprised by what you'll see there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on to today's show. It's fun to learn more about you, your exciting adventures and entrepreneurial spirits. And most importantly, it's awesome to connect and learn more about, most importantly, you and what you're currently up to.
Thank you so much, Ethan. It's been a pleasure.
So if you're ready to grow, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let's build a mindset that empowers and transforms.